Good afternoon, and welcome to Man Cave Meditations. Let's dive in. So as we are seemingly on the verge of another recession, self-inflicted, as opposed to, well, I guess the last recession, the Great Recession, so-called Great Recession of 2008, 2009, was self-inflicted to a degree. Not to this degree. Now, the president just acting like an absolute, complete, and utter madman, unsupervised madman. But it was, the Great Recession was really, I venture to say, mainly due to the housing bust, the mortgage bubble, the big bubble. And I was thinking back on that, and and remember that, not too long after that Great Recession, was when my family bought our home, which we currently live. And I remember distinctly during that time, shortly after the recession started, that there were several houses in the neighborhood, a small neighborhood, but more than a few houses in the neighborhood, which were, people had walked out on their mortgages, they couldn't afford it, so the bank took it over, houses for sale for a long time, and anyway, and it, obviously took a long time, very long time for that to recover, for the housing market to recover. And I remember during that time, I would go for walks around the neighborhood. And I remember this one home, a pristine home, just so well kept. The grounds, just everything about it. They were all over. And it was a pleasure to walk by that home. I swear, it was a pleasure. And then one day, I walked by it almost every day, and several times a week. And one day it was obvious that the home had been abandoned for whatever reason. There must have, since it wasn't for sale immediately, it must have been bank owned. The people couldn't pay the mortgage anymore, whatever it was. I don't know the backstory. Though, and point being is, I would still walk by that house day after day, week after week, month after month, and you'd notice certain things here and there. Not that the grass was growing so much and no one was taking care of it. Obviously, the bank could care less. They're not going to come mow the grass unless people complain, or the town calls. So it would happen once in a while. But then you start to see, just there was a hole in a window. There was this, there was that. Over time, there were certain things that you would notice, but overall, just walking past this home on a daily basis, you wouldn't notice. Nothing really caught your eye, right? It was almost like a numbing effect. Whereas if I had gone from, the day, seeing that home, that property, the day that the people left, and then fast forwarding 6 months and seeing it then, you're like, wow, look at the difference. Incredible. Doesn't seem like the same property. As opposed to walking by it on an almost daily basis. And thinking on that, I began thinking about a period of history which is eerily becoming, similar to the pathway our country's on to a degree, or a potential pathway, which was the 1930s Germany, under the Nazi Party. And, when Hitler took over as chancellor, and the party, the Nazi Party took power, Germany was coming out, as most of the world was, coming out of the Great Depression. unemployment was very high, and Germany had just taken a major beating since World War One anyway. I mean, it was just they were in a different boat. Um, but unemployment was high. Nothing was inflation. At one point, they had hyperinflation. It just wasn't good. Things weren't good. So Hitler basically said, "Yeah, give me 4 years. I'm gonna improve the life of the German people, the everyday life. We're gonna make things better, but you got to give us time." And he was basically elected to power. He was put to power based upon these promises. That the everyday German would just have a better deal. Though, in the background of Hitler, really, I was going to say Hitler and his party, but it was Hitler really stemmed from him, was this anti-Semitic agenda. Anti-Jew, just wanted to persecute the Jews. That was a big part of what he and those around him wanted to accomplish, for whatever reason. And shortly after he took power, I think a few weeks, he and the party, they enacted a boycott of Jewish business. And his brown shirts, I believe the SA under Röhm, they would basically, the day of this boycott, the day the boycott started, these brown shirts would stand outside any Jewish shops, take people's names as they went in and out, basically just trying to intimidate everyday Germans from just shopping at the Jewish shops. And the German people, they wanted nothing to do with it. This is the bakery I go to. This is the cleaner I go to. Get out of here. Leave me alone. I don't care. But they didn't care about those things. So at that point, it was that and other things, but the boycott lasted one day. It was pulled up, one day. Right? Didn't work. And at that point, Hitler realized that it came to the realization that, we have to first win the hearts and minds and stomachs of the German public before I can get my real agenda going. And at that point, massive building project. You had the building of the Autobahn, unemployment, drastically decreased drastically in a fairly short amount of time. And this was also due to the fact that in the mid-30s, that the entire world was coming out of the Depression. So Germany was kind of anchored in that current, of that rising current, economic rising current. And as things got better for the average German, that's when, he started to, enforce his other, or enact his other, the anti-Semitic maniacal agenda. That was the true goal. The Nuremberg laws of 1935, in which basically, Jewish people were no longer considered citizens. Right? And it was illegal for a Jew to marry a non-Jew. Right? And they had this whole thing of how you had to prove that you could only have 2 or less grandparents of Jewish descent. Anyway, and the writing was on the wall. And at that point, you see the mass leaving, just the migration of Jewish people from Germany. But a lot stayed, hundreds of thousands stayed. And the laws only became more severe. I think in 1938, they bumped it up to, not only are you not citizens, we could take your property. You can't, can't hold political office, no government job, blah, blah, blah. And it was a slow drip. Slow drip of and on top of that, the whole the Goebbels propaganda machine, just feeding the German people poison, movies, pamphlets, the cinema, and that these people are they're the enemy. They're the reason for all your ills. And the German people, similar to walking by that home that at one point was pristine, call that home, that pristinely kept home, the heart of the German nation, or just the inner heart, the inner soul. And the people just walked by every day and just didn't know the grass is getting long. There's a hole in the window. The mailbox has been damaged or turned over. There's animals running around in the yard. Hole in the fence. You might notice it, but some of it's just it's a mixture of just obliviousness, because you keep seeing the same scenery and you can't even notice it changing, like the frog boiling it, slow boiling the water, doesn't know it's being boiled to death. It just feels like the temperature's rising. And obliviousness, and also indifference, because as my Jewish boss, say the average German man, the average Aryan, not non-Jewish man, in a government position, and his boss was fired. Completely competent man, but he was fired for being Jewish. No other reason. Well, then that Aryan German got promoted. More money, more prestige, better life for your family. So do you listen to your inner morality screaming at you to say something, that this is wrong? Or do you go along with it? Ride the wave and shut that down inside. And that's what many of them did. Most of them. Almost all. In the end, it was just a wave. Look how that ended. And I feel that it's not the same scenario. History repeats itself, but it doesn't repeat itself exactly. It is happening now with us. We're walking past this home as it deteriorates. Well, and our institutions and our, call the Jewish people of that time, call it the immigrants now. At least they're starting with immigrants. That they're the reason for all of our problems. You got people getting snatched up in the street. Supreme Court, 9-0 decision. Saying to return this one Maryland man who was wrongfully detained. And the government said he was wrongfully detained. Not a mystery. They admitted it. And so just the other day, the President of the United States held a meeting with the dictator President Bukele of El Salvador. The place where we've sent hundreds of people without due process to the greatest hellhole prison on the planet, where they can't leave. And a reporter asked, with Trump sitting right there, a reporter asked Bukele about the Maryland man and whether he could, he's going to return him. And the leader of the dictator of El Salvador said no. Why would I do that? He's a terrorist. He's a terrorist. Why would I release him? And I'm sure he was told to say that, because it's better coming from his mouth than from Trump's. Because Trump is just like, hey, I just passed the buck. This guy's saying that, he can't do anything about it. What do you want me to do? So right there in the Oval Office, so right out in the open, defying a court order. Multiple court orders. And the Supreme Court, what are they going to do? It better be a major wake-up call for them. Major wake-up call for them. Okay? Because just like Hitler did 90 years ago, Trump and his team, they're putting their toe in the water. How deep can I go? right? A little pushback, you pull it up, but then you push it back in a little more. Then you put your foot in, up to the ankle. What's going to stop me? What's going to stop us? Right? Like, just in the American people who have been walking by this home as it deteriorates. And we sure, the judicial, they're gonna do what they're gonna do, but they're already defying court orders. The legislative is going to be pushed by the people. It's all going to get driven by the will of the people. So we have to, at some point, you've got to stop in front of that property and look at it. Right? Each of us, which is the soul of our nation, right? And say it's a bank-owned property. Well, if the grass hasn't been mown, you get out your fucking lawnmower. Knock on a neighbor's door. Hey, you do the back, I'll do the front. You know, get someone else who will fix the fence. Put the mailbox back up. Right? One bad apple could ruin the whole bunch. You don't want that to be a reflection of your neighborhood. It's the people. Again and again, I will say this, it is the people that will fix this, that will push Congress to act. The bunch of self-survival, it's all self-survival for them. All of it. They must fear us more than they fear him. They must. And assuming we're still allowed to vote in the midterms, I predict a wave. I think that the Senate could be, everything's going to be in play. We have to get there, though. We've got to get there first. Right? Because this is intensifying. We have to get there. We have to keep getting riled up. We have to get there, and we have to pay attention. Right? I'm not saying every single thing all the time. It's not good for your health, but we have to pay attention. Stop now. What does the moment require? You got nothing else? Call your congressman or woman. What are you doing? Get off your ass! What are you doing this way? What have you done? I'm not saying to be disrespectful, but again, you're their boss. They're not your boss. You're their boss. All of them. All of them. Everyone in that DC bubble. We are their bosses. And we are going to remind them of that in a big effing way. Come November of 2026, and then again in November of 2028. And it will be so. God bless.